Hey, how's it going? It's Bloodlord Soft, and today we are going to build a registration form. A little about myself. I've never worked in the field. I am a student at Boot Dev. I have a few certifications. Mostly went the TypeScript path. I did enjoy JavaScript. TypeScript seems like JavaScript with additional steps. I'm not a big fan of that one. I have a few projects on my repository, my GitHub. I started with Python and again moved kind of on primarily to JavaScript. I have a few projects I have recorded already, and one example is creating my own Flappy Bird clone. It's a Flappy Doodle. I really enjoy working in the JavaScript. So I am not looking to build complete authentication with this lesson here. I am just looking to complete the registration and building and storing information in a database. And for the authorization, we will use JSON Web Tokens, and I will save that for another time. For this one here though, we will begin the project by creating a front end and a back end directory. Alright, and we are going to start with the front end. Let's navigate there. Alright, we will open a new terminal and navigate to the back end on this one. Perfect. And the front end, we will create our files. We will start with index.html, and we'll do a login HTML, styles cascading sheet, and we'll do a main.js. Alright, start with our index. We'll just generate a boilerplate HTML. Let's redo that. There we go. And this one will be our registration page. Title. We will link our style sheet here. There we go. And we will build out our form. So we'll start with the form ID registration. Alright, our div, this ID will be the container where we're keeping our information here. We will start with, let me go, the register. The first thing people see. Then we need a label. This will be for our username. Alright, and an input field. The type will be text. The ID for this one will be username. Placeholder. Same thing. We'll take another label. This one will be for the password. Second input field. This will be for the password, ID, password, and the placeholder. Password. Alright, we need a submit button. Let's go ahead and save that. And we will run with live server. If you have live server on your IDE, I am using VS Code for that. Alright, we will go into our style CSS and we will start changing some of these here. Display we're setting to flex, background color, we're going to set to, we need justify content, center, and align items in the center. Alright, we will take our div, our container, give it a background color of white, border 1 pixel solid, and we want a gray color. Let's add one more seat there. A box shadow, 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 2 pixels, black. Alright. Now, let's see, we want to display flex and flex direction column. There we go. Get some padding. Boom. Alright, now we need let's take our labels. For password, our label for username. Alright, now let's add a margin top. Let's try 10 pixels. A little space. Let's take our button. Margin top. Let's do that. 10 pixels. Let's try 20. So it looks a little better. Okay. Border. Let's take away that border. Color. Let's start with green. Let's do that, and then we'll change it. There we go. Border. Radius. Let's take away those sharp edges. Let's round them up. And let's give it height 20 pixels. 25. That looks a little better. Okay, I want to center that, so let's take that H2 and then we'll give it a margin of 0 pixels and auto. Padding 10 pixels. 20. Okay, looking good. Alright, now I'm going to add one more element here in case our username and our password isn't coming up. So we'll go back to here, and within our div element, we're going to add another one. The ID for this guy will be no user, in case there's no username. And copy that guy. And this one will be called no pass, in case there's no password. So, inside this div, do this one. Username required. Okay, go back to our styles. Grab the element. Okay, the color. Let's make that red. Looks dangerous. 0 pixels, and then we'll auto. We'll center that, and let's give it some space. Perfect. Now we'll change the display to none, so it's not visible. We're going to do the same thing with this guy here. Alright, what we're going to do is just copy that. Now if we change that back to block, it should be visible. Alright, that is good for the CSS portion. Actually, I want to let's do a shadow on the button. It's not necessary, it just looks nice. Alright, and let's do a hover element. Alright, now we got a little hover element. Let's close that. We are good. This one is just going to be a redirect page that we do later for our login. So we're just going to do this. Log in here. That's it. We'll close that. Alright, so this is going to be our registration page, our front end side. So this will be the code for that. So first we want to take our form, grab by the element ID, which was registration. We will make a function called submit, and we are going to add an event listener for the submit. Arrow function, and we are going to prevent default and call submit. Let's take our elements. We need our username, and we have to call the value. We want the value from that. Same thing with the password. Password, and we want the value too from that. We'll grab our no user, and we'll do the same thing here, the no pass. Around everywhere there. No user and no pass. And what did I do here? Okay. First we will do a if no username is given, then the first thing we will do is take the no user.style.display, and we will change that to block. We will set timeout, an arrow function, and then the no user.style, we will change it back to none to hide the component again, and we'll set that to 3000. Okay, let's save that and try that out. We'll just type in a password, hit register, and nothing is popping up. So let's see. Oh, let's see. Let's go back to our index, our button. Type equals submit. Bear with me while I solve this. Alrighty, and proceeding onward, I am a dummy. I was not importing my script, which is very important. You're not going to be able to run your JavaScript if you are not importing your script. So let's do that. Alright, we're getting our username error. And now we want it to go back away. So let's reload the page, and let's add some timeouts to those. And we'll call it back after 3 seconds. Do the same thing here. And then we'll do that after 30 seconds too. And we will add another condition. Let's see, after the password. If a password is given and the password length is less than 8, we will return a window alert. Password must be at least 8 characters. Let's save that. And let's test our conditions. We'll give the username, no password. Password is required. We'll give the password, no username. Oh, we got both of them. Let's try that again. There we go. Username required. Alright, looks like our conditions are working. So the last thing we can do for our front end here is we'll have the console get a little more space here. Alright, now if all of these conditions check, then this goes through. And if this goes through, then we want to try and we'll catch our errors, and then we'll console error message if it doesn't go through. Else we want to fetch, and we're going to do our localhost because that's where we're going to be hosting our back end. We'll do port 2500 users. Alright, and after we fetch, the method we're going to fetch will be post. Our headers will be a content type. There we go. Application JSON. And the body. Okay, the body we want to send our username and our password. What we're going to do is create a data object, and we're going to give it a username, like the Python dictionary's key values of username with the key, and we'll pass in the username. That's the value that we're passing here, and a password, which is the same value. Alright, so that's what we're going to pass into our body. So we call JSON stringify, and we will stringify our data object. Alright, so this will be sending. Then our response. Alright, if the response is okay, then right now let's just redirect the login page. Window.location.href, and maybe we can just do login.html. Alright, let's try that out. Make it long enough. Yeah, I don't know if that went through. Oh, because I didn't get a response. So we won't know. Alright, let's build our back end out now. Alright, let's control squiggly line to bring the little guy back up. Alright, we get a full screen that because we don't really need to look at that window anymore. Oh, what do we got going on here? We got an error. Hang on. What did I do? Oh, right here. Okay. Let's save that. Now let's close all these. Boop, bop, boop. Close the front end. And now we're gonna start our back end. First thing we're gonna do is npm. We're gonna initialize yes. And this will get our package JSON ready. We'll install our dependencies. We start with express and CORS, cross-origin resource sharing. Alright, and we'll start with nodemon. which will refresh our server. Any changes we make will continuously refresh. We will set up here, we will distinguish our type as a module so we can import our files, and we will just call this dev, and then nodemon, and then our server JavaScript. Okay, we will create our server, and let's get our .end as well. Create a few new files here. This will just be our .end file, and this isn't necessary, but I'm just going to throw the port in here. We're going to be using this later for our JSON web tokens, for our access tokens and our refresh tokens. So we'll close that, and let's set up our server. Declare app as express. Our port, we'll bring in our port from the .end. That will inject it into our script here. Now we need to use the express JSON for JSON handling, and of course cross-origin resource sharing. We will listen on our port. Come on. My end was kind of stuck there. Pass in port again. Alright, so that is essentially it for the server here. Let's add one more. Get back into the back end. Alright, let's run this first one. We'll run our dev, which we'll call our server from our package. There we go. It injected our port from our .env file, and we are now running on localhost 2500. Using our REST clients, you can get these from the extensions. It's REST. We'll create a new file. Let's call it REST HTTP, and we need to set up our first endpoint. So we will call this our first endpoint. We'll call it users, which will take a request and a response. Now, for when we check this endpoint, right now we are just going to make an array until we use our database, which I will be using better SQLite 3. SQLite 3 is it's pretty basic, and it was a lot easier for me to understand than Postgres and using Drizzle, and that was a little more complicated. So I'm pretty much going off memory here, so I won't be going into Postgres with this. So with this one, for this response, we'll just send the array. Alright, and we'll save it, and we'll test our endpoint and get localhost, and change that to 2500. Get this ready for another endpoint. There we go. We'll send a request, and we are getting our array back. So this endpoint is working. So now we will create another one, and this one will be our post. It'll be the same. There we go. Same address. But this one takes a content type right now, application JSON, and this one will take a user a username, and a password. We'll say this one, Blood Lord Self. Hey, that's me. And the password we will give it. And right now the password will just be blood. Cool beans. Alright, I'll go ahead and say we don't need to save it, but I like to, so I don't have to redo it if I close it. Let's go back in here and we'll create the endpoint. So this will be our post endpoint for our users, passing the same request and response. Alright, so we'll deconstruct our username, and our password. Destructure that from the request body. Okay, and right now we are not using our database. We are just pushing to the array. So for now, we will just do that. We will make another data object here. Alright. Then we will push it. The array.push data object. Alright, and then we will status 200, and we'll call it success if it goes through. So come back here, we will push to our array. We do get a success, okay, and then we will check and we will see that it does save, and you will notice that the password comes back and it is not secure. We will be using a library called bcrypt to hash the passwords, which is very simple, and we will go ahead and do that real quick. So create bcrypt and create a new file called auth.js, and I will be doing the bcrypt and JSON web tokens within here and importing them into the main file. So we're going to import bcrypt from bcrypt. Bcrypt is an asynchronous library, so when we export this function, we will need to export an async function. And we will call this one the hash password. So we'll take hash our password. We're going to pass a password into it. We will have to await bcrypt.hash. We're going to pass in our password and the salt amount, which is I think it's 10 by default. But I'm going to pass the 10 in there and then just return our hash. And let's save that. And let's go ahead and import it. Okay. So after we do that, we are going to make a function to pass this password into here. We're going to pass this password to hash. We are going to store this hash right here in here instead. Since we are calling an await here, this will need to be async as well. We'll save that, and now we'll go ahead and check it again. And you'll notice every time, since we are using an array, if we try to load up, our users aren't saving. That's because the array is localized and it's not stored. Alright, we will send this request again. It's success, posted, and when we get it back, you'll notice that the password is now hashed, and it has the salt and then the password attached to it. So it is more secure when storing. So let's go on further, and we will need a database to store our stuff in. So for right now, let us test if we are pushing to our array correctly. We'll make a new name. We'll call it Bunny, and the password will be moon. Okay, it has to be 8 characters, so we'll just do moon twice. moon. Register. Wait, and it redirected us to our login page. So let's check our endpoint, and we'll see that it is now storing the name Bunny. So our front end is working correctly, and it's storing information the way we want it to. So let's replace the array with something a little more substantial. Let's go back into our server, and we can go ahead and get rid of the array object. We're not gonna be playing with the array anymore. What we're gonna do is we're going to import better SQLite 3. There we go, and we're going to create a schema for it. We're going to import database from better SQLite 3. Const, now we do database equals new database, and we're going to call this one just users.database. Alright, db. Now, whoops. Alright, we will store an ID, which will be an integer. It's going to be the primary key, and it will auto increment. Alright, we're going to store a username. It'll be text. It'll be unique, not null. And we're going to store a password. Text, not null. Okay, and you can add as many fields as here as you would need to add to your database. Alright. Right now we're just keeping it simple. I'm just storing an ID. You need the ID for the first row or first column, whatever. The username and the password. I'm gonna export the default database. Okay, and as you'll see here at the bottom, as soon as I import it into the server, it'll create the database. Schema. Let's do the. There we go. So save it. Boom, and it generates our user's database. So we're sending our information, we are hashing our password, we are creating our user object. Alright, when that happens, we will try, and we want this, our success within our try block, and our catch, our failures. I'll send a status of 500, and I'll send, and I'll say something like server error. Alright. So, const c equals db.prepare, and we will insert into users with username, password, values, question mark, question mark. Alright. stmt.run, and then we're going to put in the username and hash. And we're going to delete this data object. We don't need it. Okay. If no username or no password is given, we will return status 403, forbidden, I guess. Send username and password required. All right. So let's see if, well, can't really get anything back yet. So this will be posting to our database, and this will be receiving from our database. So we will need the same setup here. We destructure a username and a password from the rec body. Alright, maybe prepare, select all from users where username equals dot get username. Alright, right now I guess we don't need to check the password. It would be a good thing to do. So I'll just go ahead and leave it in there for right now. Res.send CMT, we can just send it. We can create the validation logic for the bcrypt after this. Let's see. First, let's test it out. Let's post. Alright, it says success. I guess I'm successfully storing to the database. And now I have my type error cannot destructure property username. Okay, hang on. My bad. Okay. I'm not sending anything, so let's do that. Send a username. Bob. Okay. And I'm getting okay, nothing back. I don't have any errors, so let's try Red Lord Stop. Make sure that's in there. And it is, yes, item number 1. So it is currently working. So let's go back to our server. See what I want to do here. Okay. No username. We'll send status 403. Return status. Alright. Now let's create the logic real quick for the bcrypt. Export a sync function. This will be the check hash. Let's take a password and a string. Okay, now hash await bcrypt, and we'll compare the password to the string, and it returns a boolean if true. So check hash, we will import it. All right, and we will put it right in here. No username or no password is given. Alright. Now we will await, and we have to make this async. Check hash, and then we're going to pass the password. And this, okay, see if these passwords match up. Okay, if hash, if it doesn't work, I should probably make this the send status 403. Or you know, I'll just do a res dot status 403 forbidden. I think that's send invalid password. Okay. probably wrap this in a try catch block as well. There we go. Okay, so now we're checking the hash password against the password being submitted inside of the users. So, first, let's make sure we're passing in a password now. The problem was I forgot what I made my password. I'm gonna make a new registration, I guess. Oh no, it's right there, blood. Okay. So send the request. I'm getting the user. Let's change my password. Blow. Invalid password. Alright, so the logic is now working there. So we can now create a password. And let's go back to our registration. Let's create Bunny. Let's do a new one. Create register. Redirects us to the login page so we know it's working. Let's try logging in. Bunny. Good, invalid password. Password I gave to her. Boom. And now it's logging in. And it is now successfully storing to the database, and it is hashing the passwords. And that is it for the registration section of this. Next time I'll get into the whole validating with JSON web tokens and authorization. Thank you. It was kind of fun doing this lesson. I do have other videos I plan on coming out with. I plan on keeping these projects regular. I'm really good at starting them, not so good at like finishing them up. But I hopefully will get better at that. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something. Sometimes it's a little difficult learning from someone who has spent a long time, I guess, in the industry, and they speak a lot of jargon. I've been pretty new with it, so I'm trying to keep up with the lingo. All right, you have a good one. You take care. Bye.